So you've cut trees and shrubs and had them sprout back from the ground, right? That's called coppicing. Whether you know it or not, you've coppiced. So coppicing is basically the intentional management of woody plants so that you can harvest the resprout every time you cut it. And it's the foundation of virtually every civilization around the world, or indigenous culture around the world. They all used woody resprouts in some form, and it's like the forgotten beginning of agriculture, in my opinion. So, trees and shrubs, you can cut them at either at the tips of the twigs, you can cut them on the branches, you can cut them down to the stem, you can cut them to the ground. Different species will respond better or not as well to those different levels of intensity of disturbance, and we can figure out which species to use and which way to get the best quality materials. And you can use it for wood chips, obviously. You can use it for just rough mulch. You can use it for animal fodder to feed your animals. It's a great drought strategy, because grasses will dry up before the trees will, and then you can harvest the fodder for in the summertime. Or you can, in many cultures in Europe, they were harvesting fodder off the trees in the fall, and then storing it for the winter. So there's all the way up through crafts and art and furniture and buildings. There's a whole gamut of useful products. And also in terms of livestock production, particularly when you start getting into silvopasture systems, wood pasture or alley cropping with a tree layer, you can get higher grass productivity in partial shade. If you have cool season grasses, you can get higher grass productivity in partial shade than you can in full sun, especially as the climate heats up, and reduce stress on your animals and reduce vet bills, and just get better productivity out of your animals, much less your pasture. Depending on what you're doing, you could have coppice within a few years. If you want to grow willows for basketry, you could have stuff in 2 years. If you are looking for, like, one of the things that I'm playing with is putting woody nitrogen fixers around my fruit trees, and then I chop and drop, and the material that I drop is fertilizer. But also, when you cut the top and the tree starts to regrow, a lot of the roots die, and that adds nitrogen to the soil, and so you can get a flush of nitrogen to your trees, and improve the soil over time. So that's completely valid thing to do, and it's you can make it more or less labor intensive depending on how you design it and what you're trying to use it for. So Friday night is going to be a broad brush overview, looking at what the big picture is of history and systems and species and different ways that coppice systems have been put together and how it's been used. Saturday is going to be, we'll get into some nitty gritty in terms of physiology of trees and how they resprout, and how you can figure out what kind of resprouts the different species, because there's not a lot of good data in the literature in terms of which species sprout how. But we'll be looking on site, and I'll be doing a lecture on the physiology so we can figure that out in the field. Compartmentalization of decay in trees is a key piece to understand that, and the energy budgets, how plants budget their energy over the seasons and over the years, and then the physiology of the buds and how you can multiply the buds by managing them properly, or you can actually decrease the bud bank, as we call it, by managing improperly. And then we'll be looking around J2 Farms in the afternoon, and we'll be brainstorming and doing a little math and some exercises around how we might design systems for fodder, for mushroom logs, for firewood. I forget what else. There were some other things. Let me see. Leaf hay, animal fodder, mulch production in coppice blocks, orchard integration, firewood, and mushroom log production. Those are the things we'll be looking at. I learned about coppice back in the 1980s. I've been trying to research it ever since. I've been paying attention to trees and shrubs, just wandering and driving and walking and biking around. And I've tried managing them here and there. But when I met Mark Kravchuk, he he spent 7 months apprenticing with Ben Law in Britain and learning how to do this stuff in the British way. And then he and I teamed up and started figuring this stuff out together. And, you know, we've been at it for a while.